Hey boys, welcome back to the channel, and it is a State of Origin Game 2 discussions here. We are going to be going through the two teams. Quite a few changes for both teams. Unfortunately for Queensland, a couple of forced changes, and for New South Wales, well, there was a plethora of changes. Now, it feels weird having the game on Sunday, no regular NRL. I don't know if I don't like not having the regular season, I've got to be honest, but I do love the international matches. I love Origin, but yeah, I don't know, I should talk about this in another video, but I don't know, personally I'd like to see, I don't know, I know they've thought about doing Origin at the end of the year, but if they actually made it like it'd be tough. I might make another video discussing that type of stuff, because there's quite a few nuances involved in all of that. But regardless, I'm very excited. I'm very nervous. I'm never confident. Even when we had arguably the greatest team of all time, still never confident, because it's State of Origin. Anything can happen. Obviously, this Blues lineup is still very dangerous. I do like the Queensland team a lot, but it was only 6 points in the last game. Queensland missed quite a few chances to really put their game to bed. New South Wales, I thought I was very nervous. I was gonna sneak away with the victory in the end, but thankfully Queensland held on and got a good win. So obviously I'm tipping Queensland. I don't think it's going to be high scoring game. Who knows? But I'm going to tip Queensland 22-16. That's my tip. Couple more tries in this one. Queensland getting the win just again. So let's go through the Blues lineup. We'll talk about the changes there. So obviously Tedesco retains his spot. I felt like there was a lot of criticism after that game for Tedesco. I thought he was still arguably the most dangerous for the Blues. Like he every time he ran it in that second half, he was just a constant threat, and I hate to see him there. You just know he's going to break it open at some point. He was close a couple of times, so obviously he retains the spot, even though quite a few people were calling for him to be dropped, I think. The wingers, so they've stuck with Tupou and Daniel To'o. It's weird because, like, all the changes, it's surprising that Adokar didn't get a recall with his form. And I think Adokar should have been there from the start. And I think To'o was probably the guy that shouldn't have been there. Obviously To'o is arguably like the best winger in the comp when he's fully fit, but I still think he's a little underdone. He's definitely gotten better, but that first game he was definitely a bit underdone. Even in NRL, he wasn't quite having the same impact. So I just thought it was a bit strange that Adokar was dropped for either of these guys. But, the form of both of them, you couldn't really drop either of them. I know people were calling for Tupou to be dropped, but I thought Tupou was pretty solid. I do think Adokar is better than Tupou, but he's sticking with his guns on that one. He's made wholesale changes everywhere else, but the one change everybody is on his case about, he just doesn't want Adokar, I guess. I don't know. The centre pairings, completely different. Obviously Jack Whiten is out, through COVID, but he's probably fit now, but obviously he hasn't been able to train and stuff. So Whiten is gone, which is, before the first game, you'd be like, that's a massive plus for New South Wales, but he was probably the New South Wales best player. Defensively, really strong. He looked dangerous. He gave Dane Gagai quite a few troubles, and it's a pretty big loss for the Blues. But they brought in another makeshift centre, Matt Burton, who I picked it. I didn't pick him for centre, but if you go back to my initial video talking about the team I would have picked for New South Wales, I had Burton as my utility, and I still argue that he would be the best number 14 the Blues have to offer, but they've copied the Queensland playbook, and we'll talk about that in a second. But Matt Burton goes into the centres, and it's playing with fire though, right? Like, I know it worked last game with Wyden. And it's worked before. Like, it's definitely... It's been hit or miss, right? It's been hit or miss with this just placing sort of the best players in the center that aren't centers. I mean, obviously, Burton played a lot of center in that Panthers team, but he's not a center, or maybe he is. Maybe his best position is center, but he hasn't been playing center this whole year. And honestly, his form has been incredible lately, but it wasn't good to start the year. And yeah, he just hasn't had he hasn't been playing center. So it's a gamble, you know. It works with the best. Like, obviously, Latrell, Tom Trebojevic, it's worked with those, but, you know, you look at, like, Clint Gutherson, Wyden a couple of years ago had a bit of a shocker. So it's a gamble. I think he'll do a good job. I'm interested to see how it goes, honestly. I think he'll be fine. Maybe he'll carve up. I don't know. But it's definitely a gamble. Stephen Crichton is probably the obvious one to come in as well. Tony Staggs, I think, is pretty harshly dropped. I don't... Like, this thing I don't really get. Like, he's dropped... Like, Fiddler's just... I don't understand. Honestly, I don't understand. So, Stephen Crichton was on the bench last game. Tony Staggs started. Tony didn't really see any footy. He didn't do anything wrong in that first game. Like, defensively, he was fine. He looked dangerous the couple of times he had the footy. And then he got injured, but it more looked like a set plan that they were going to take Staggs off at some point and put Crichton on, potentially. Crichton came on and didn't play well, but now they just dropped Staggs. I don't know. Why did he pick Staggs in the first place? Like, was he just expecting Staggs to just win the game for them in the 80 minutes? And if he didn't, that he was just going to get dropped? I don't know. It's a weird one. But yeah, Staggs misses out. The halves, obviously, Luai and Cleary retain. The front row, so Payne Haas, Api Koroisau comes into the starting lineup, which is, this is what I was talking about, copying Queensland. They've gone with 2 dummy halves, which I'm honestly pretty worried about. I wish he didn't do this, because obviously... I've said it from the start, I think Api Koroisau is a better overall dummy half than Cook. And then having Cook come off the bench when there's tied forwards, I think is very dangerous for Queensland. And I'm not pleased about it. I think it's very dangerous. Like I said, I think Burton is a really good number 14. But this option of the double dummy halves, both with attacking upside, Koroisau with the familiarity with the Panthers, he's got a bit more about him with ball playing than Cook to start. I like it a lot. And then Jake Trebojevic comes into the starting lineup for Campbell Gillard. Again, I don't understand this one. Campbell Gillard, I don't think was great in that first game, but none of the Blues forwards were good. Like, Payne Haas probably topped in stats, but he wasn't really an impact... Like... You wouldn't have noticed Payne Haas compared to the Queensland forwards. Campbell Gillard, I thought, has been pretty good since Origin. Jake Trebojevic, I did find it a bit funny that he was dropped initially, because he's sort of... I mean, he's the guy... Like, if he was a Queenslander, he would never be dropped, right? He's not flashy. He's not one of these guys that's going to break the line open and do something incredible, but he's he's your typical, like, Queensland forward that just does his work and does it well, you know, and just with that passion. But New South Wales in the past have always gone for more flashier forwards, but I mean, Jake he's been there and done it before. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I think Jake is on the decline. I haven't been a huge fan for the last couple of years, but I didn't really think it warranted him getting dropped. I think just having him starting in Origin, either at prop or probably not at lock, but probably at prop, just take the sting out of the game, just get in, make plenty of tackles, get some aggression up in the defensive line. That's all he has to do, and just have the impact players off the bench. I think that would be the better outcome. But they brought him back for game 2. Again, I mean, the switching of players is very confusing. But is it better overall? I don't know. I think for the opening stanza, it'll definitely stiffen up their defensive line, but it does limit their attacking potential to start the game. I mean, he does ball play, but I don't think he's the best at it, even though he does it a lot. The back row, Murray, Martin, and Yeo, the same there. So, yeah, nothing really changed. Damien Cook goes back to 14, which I was talking about. I think is very dangerous, and I'm very worried about. Angus Crichton comes in. Junior Polo. Did he start on the bench last game? Yeah, he didn't he? Yeah. And then Sifa Talakai is the 17. So Crichton replacing basically Madison, I think is... I mean, again, it's just a weird swap, right? Like Madison didn't really see too much game time in game 1. Didn't do anything too badly. I think his form for Parramatta has been sensational. Crichton has been very up and down for the Roosters. I don't get why they've just switched them over. Like just show a little bit of faith in the team the players that you picked, right? Like I was surprised Crichton missed out originally, but like why pick Madison? I don't get picking Madison and then dropping him after like not a terrible game 1. And his form for Parramatta has been sensational. So I don't get it. Is it stronger or weaker? I don't know. They're fairly similar. Probably Crichton's a bit more of a stronger carrier. Madison's got a bit more skill about him. So I don't know. It's a bit one or the other basically. But it's just, I don't know. Just the switching is just strange to me. And then the big one here of Talakai is a shock. It's a shock to me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm definitely nervous because Talakai has the potential to come on and absolutely steamroll and just cause all sorts of havoc in the middle. But if I was a New South Wales fan, I'd be 50-50, right? Because Talakai, he in the outside backs, he's been pretty okay. He hasn't done anything too stupid, but playing in the forwards, he definitely has a potential to do a few silly things, right? He's got a couple of errors in him. He's got a couple of high shots in him, a couple of shoulder charges. He's a bit of a loose cannon when he's thrown into the middle of the field. So I'd be nervous. I'm nervous as a Queenslander. I'd be nervous as a New South Wales Welshman, but I don't know. I mean, he is the sort of X Factor impact player. So I don't hate the selection, but it is a bit of a weird one. Especially because, I mean, he's big enough and he's played in the middle a lot. And I guess he does cover the outside backs as well now because he's played a lot of centre. But so, yeah, he provides some good sort of versatility as well, which I guess for the makeup of the team, having Cook as their 14, it's not a bad selection. I was surprised that a lot of shocks in this Blues lineup, I gotta be honest. But yeah, Talakai rounds up the 17. Is it a stronger team overall? I think it is. Honestly, the big reason Apikar is here starting and Cook on the bench, I think just has a whole level of danger. It just adds another level to the attack and just the impact that they can have. The forwards, pretty similar. Jake taking over Campbell Gillard. They got a bit more impact on the bench, I would say, with Talakai and Crichton over Madison. And who was the other one dropped? Oh, yeah, Tariq Sims. Yeah, Tariq Sims being out is a no-brainer. I don't really know why he was selected. But again, like, why was he selected, but then why was he dropped? Like, why did he pick him if he was... like, I don't... Very strange he selected Tariq Sims in that game 1. And then we look at the Queensland team. Tuolangi coming in for Xavier Coates. I've got to be honest, I think this strengthens our team. I think Tuolangi is an absolute freak. He's a superstar. Like, if Tuolangi is... He's as freakish and as talented as like Cobbo, Sawali, all of these guys that get talked up so much. But I don't know. I don't know if he's a couple of years older. So I guess he's, I don't know. How old is he? Like 20, 21 maybe? I don't know. He's not 18 like those boys. So, people maybe think of him as a bit of a veteran now. And also he plays for North Queensland. So it doesn't get quite the eyes of like a Brisbane or a Rooster, but Tuolangi is an absolute monster. I think personally he's a better player than Xavier Coates. I'm very happy he went with him. I was slightly worried that he might have gone with Corey Oates, which I don't think would have been bad. Like, Corey Oates would have provided some good go forward and, just sort of tough carries. But Murray Tuolangi definitely deserved the spot, and I think that's a great pickup. And I mean, aerial contest as well. Like, he's got it all, honestly. So I'm hoping he has a good game, a good debut. And then the other one, well, the big loss here is Ruben Cotter. I mean, that is massive. I mean, the man played 80 minutes through the middle, and it wasn't a Jake Trbojevic 80 minutes where you make 50 tackles and 4 runs. It was many tackles and many runs, and the runs were impactful. Like, he was busting tackles. He was breaking through the defensive line. Ruben Cotter, oh man, I'm so mad. I'm so mad that he's out for this game, dude. Oh, it's such a huge loss. It is massive. It is a massive loss. But that means Lindsay starts, because Tino started at prop, did he? And then Tino goes to the 13, which, I mean, it has more size about it, which is good or bad. But I mean, you can't replace that boy Ruben Cotter. He's an absolute freak. But they have the forward depth. I mean, Queensland, they honestly have an abundance of middle forwards, so it's not the position most damaging to lose a player for sure. In the outside backs, centre primarily, it would have been bad, but the middle forwards, Queensland do have quite a few very good middle forwards. The bench, Jai Arrow comes onto the bench, so I like that as well. And the rest of the team is the exact same. I've got to be honest, I was somewhat hoping they would pick Jaden Sewer, even though Sewer's only just been back from a serious injury for a couple of weeks now. I think Sewer he's a monster. I would have loved to have seen him. And I've got to be, I still think Nanai, I don't know, maybe he'll come out of this game and do some freakish things, but I would have rather the aggression and sort of the presence of Arrow being selected and probably Jaden Sewer as well over Nanai. But, Nanai, he's going to be a Queensland player for a long time, so if he can just go out, do his job, contest the high balls, he's a freak. I mean, he's an absolute class player, but I don't know, just for Origin, I like having those tough boys on the bench to come out and provide an impact. But it's a good bench still. I mean, Harry Grant, Arrow, Carrigan, and Nanai, that's a strong bench. Last game, the New South Wales bench was way outclassed by Queensland. This time, the New South Wales bench is also really good. It's very similar, honestly. You got Cook v Grant, Crichton v Arrow, very similar players. Polo v Carrigan, a bit different shapes, but fairly similar. And then Talakai v Nanai. Nanai with the skill, Talakai with the brute force. So this is shaping up to be a very good game. I'm just praying Queensland win. Please just win the series so my mind can be at ease and I can be happy regardless of the next game. But I'm, like I said, I'm tipping Queensland. What I say, 22-16. I'll stick with that. I still love the Queensland team. I love the inclusion of Tuolangi. I like that Jai Arrow's back. Obviously, Ruben Cotter is a massive loss. The changes for New South Wales, I mean, again, like I said about Burton being a gamble, the whole mass changes thing is a gamble. I think it was a couple of years ago, there was like mass changes, or like a few years ago, and they ended up winning comfortably, but I think a lot of those changes were like the superstars coming back. I think it was like Tom Trbojevic and those guys coming into the team. So it was a very, very strong team then. But this one, it's just, I don't know, a lot of these changes for me are just sort of like for like. And it could pay off if they fire up and try to prove themselves. But I don't know, there's got to be worries there, I feel, for some players, because if they don't perform at like 100% their best, then they could be gone for the next game. It adds sort of there's already a lot of pressure on Origin, but I don't know, the mass changes for me, it's a gamble. That's all I'll say. But, I mean, I do like the New South Wales team. I think it is very strong. I mean, you know, the Panthers are going pretty well, and they got plenty of Panthers boys, so... Oh, I'm nervous though. But, yeah, hopefully guys are enjoying the content. Let me know in the comments section who you reckon is going to win. Scoreline, whatever else. Make sure to like and comment. I'll see you guys in the next one.